Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vagueiro.
So welcome to Breaking Barriers. We're so happy to have you, Ellie. We have Ellie here with Phoenix Rising Sun. We're so honored, and for people who are listening in and asking, well, who is Ellie, right? Can you give us, a brief story just about you, how you got involved in the healing space, and just so we know high level what you do?
Yeah. Thanks, John. It's really nice to be here with you and very nice to meet you. So the website is phoenixrisinghealing.com. And the reason that I named it that many years ago, decades, is because I see my work as being instrumental in helping people become a phoenix themselves. As a result of the healing and clearing work that I do for them. My mission is to help my clients, really soar and become empowered and live the life that they're meant to live.
I love that. And when did your journey start? Like, when did you get this? Like, when did this become like a thing for you where you're like, I want to get into this healing space? Like, what gave you that, itch to want to help people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started out doing counseling, mainstream counseling in a psychiatric facility. And I remember sitting there one day, and this was back in my 20s. And I said to myself, it feels really good to hold the space for the clients that really just need to talk and maybe get some guidance. But I knew that there was a lot more to what I can do and what I'm here to help people with. And that's how eventually I combined the counseling, not just counseling, but intuitive counseling, meaning like I can tune into a person or a situation and really get an intuitive clarity on it that I can share with the client rather than just, talking. It's like going to a higher realm.
Right.
So I combine that with my the counseling with my ability to send energy in a highly focused way where they can feel it. They could be in Hong Kong. I could be working them remotely like you and I are,
Right.
we see each other. And they can feel the energy as I'm sending it to them, but it's highly focused. So there'll be a specific issue that I clear every session for each client, whether it's depression, or today I cleared a woman's sudden flashes of anger, because she really wants to get beyond that so she can have peace and harmony and the anger isn't hers to begin with. It was her parents' anger that she absorbed.
Right.
So that's a lot of what I do, is clear the childhood issues that seem to get stuck with us. And then we're walking around in the world not being our authentic selves. Make sense?
It makes total sense. And me being somebody who, growing up, my parents had some issues because my father, and his we'll call it drinking habits. And one of the things for me that, I became super anxious early because, I would see conflict happen often. And so I grew up having pretty extreme anxiety disorder. But I'm a big believer, not that I don't think it's right when people take medication, but for me, I'm just like more of a holistic person. So I never wanted to just like blanket it with medication. So what I wound up doing was, over time, this anxiety just, kept coming and kept coming. And, when you're saying what you're saying, I think it makes a lot of sense because I carry around, even to this day as an adult, I've figured out how to manage it, right? And to, to dance with it as opposed to let it overtake me. But so many people, whether it's anger, I know a lot of different cause and effects of, childhood traumas that I've seen in friends and family. And so it's really cool that people have the capability to have somebody like yourself to go to and work on that and clear that. Because I think one of the things for me that I didn't realize, like growing up, you know, right outside of, New York, and everybody's big personalities and big egos. So it's typically not looked at like, you feel almost like insecure or maybe too vulnerable telling people, oh, I'm seeing a therapist or a healer or whatever, because you have that wall, that ego. And I think most people, especially entrepreneurship, that are listening in, so like, you don't want to think in your head that you have to go see somebody or think that you're at that level. But I think one of the things for me that helped me tremendously is like seeking that help. So seeking somebody like yourself, I think, is so critical, and it's important. So first off, I appreciate what you do, and that's really cool that you have the capability to touch somebody's life like that. Because the way I visualize it and animate it in my head is, for so long, of my life, I was locked in like these cages, right, of anxiety. And it prohibited a lot of things for me, whether it was, pleasure wise or business wise. It put me in a cage. And once I was able to, talk to somebody, right, and get out of it, it changed my life. So, the fact that obviously you're on that side doing what you're doing, it's really impactful. So the only thing I want to say for our listeners out there is, I'm a big believer in seeking help, and I like to utilize the analogy because I started my business when I was 17. I'm 31 now, and one of the things that I like to utilize is, if you're gonna go on like a jungle tour, right, and you're going through this jungle in the forest and you've never been before, you're going to get all types of bites, and you're going to go through all the rough stuff. But when you know somebody who has been through the jungle and has experience in it, it helps you get a better guide and not go through all the mishaps you would have. So that's what I look at what you do. And so somebody out there that's looking, I think obviously this is a big deal. And obviously later on in the podcast, we'll have Ellie tell us a little bit more where you can be found and stuff. But thank you for what you do. I appreciate it. Me personally, because I've been in that world in terms of the other side. So I appreciate it. What would you say is like one big tip, right, that you could give away, not giving away your whole secret sauces or what you do best, but what would you say just, would be a great tip for somebody listening right now? You mentioned anger. You said, I healed somebody with anger. Is there a tip or some sort of, I would say tip, I guess, or a piece of advice you give to somebody listening right now, that they could do to kind of like start to change that?
Well, I would say the first step would be, having the awareness of the anger, acknowledging it, and then having compassion and knowing that that's probably not your essence. Whoever's listening to this, it's not your essence, it's not your nature to be angry. That's something that you learned and that was imprinted on you from one or both parents who had issues with anger, who had unresolved anger themselves. So yeah, number one, be aware. Number two, forgive yourself, have compassion, and realize it's probably not your anger. And then number three would be to, find a skilled practitioner. Especially what I love about my work is that it's really efficient. So I can actually like clear like a big issue every session, like energetically it's done, like an eraser. And so if you can, find someone, well, I don't know anyone actually who can do what I do. But instead of going for years of therapy or counseling and working on it, life is so short. We're really meant to come into our authentic self and what we're here to contribute as quickly as possible. So what I love to do most is clearing, and I mean seriously, energetically clearing and healing issues from the past that are holding people back from realizing their full potential and what they're here to do.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. Anybody who's listening to that, I would whether you're at the gym right now or in the car, you definitely want to grab a little notepad and a pen on that one. So we like to have, some of our fans kind of write in and just, ask any questions or whatever. One of the questions that came in was, around essentially being an author, right? So one is an entrepreneurship based, but this question essentially is asking, if you were to go back for the time that you wrote your first, work, what would you advice wise give yourself that now, have written? Any advice you'd give yourself that'd be different, that you would do differently from the beginning?
Um, I would realize that it might take a little bit longer than you think to
Mm,
to write a book. My book is called Hitching a Ride, a guide
mm,
to earthbound spirits and how they affect you.
yeah,
And there was a purpose behind it. I really did it. It was a lot of work, and I really did it as a service
right.
to humankind to increase the awareness of the public that there really are earthbound spirits, ghosts, people who leave the body, who die, and then they get stuck here on the earth plane and attached to people. That's one of the two main branches of my work.
Mm,
So my point is, and that can be found on my website,
right.
Hitching a Ride. But my point is to the listeners is get in touch with the purpose for writing the book. What is it that you want to share? What is your message and why? How is it going to help and who is it going to help? I think that will really give a lot of focus and motivation for the book unfolding naturally.
Yeah. That's really good advice. Thank you. That's a golden nugget. So for the person that asked that question, there you go. Um, Secondly, what do you think? So in your field, like, again, it's so evolving, right? And as I mentioned, before we started the podcast, it's like typically people who, whether, obviously there's not somebody that's specifically like you, you're very unique and different, but there's certain services that you offer that people could do, whether it's medium, or things of that nature. And like as an example, in New York, like you'll walk by like a building and you'll see like a psychic or a medium or something like that, in the window. And that's typically how people, find those people. Based on what you're doing, it feels pretty innovative that obviously right now, because you put worldwide on your website, right? So like technically anybody from all over the world, I'm sure as long as they have a phone or a laptop, they can, reach you. Where do you see, your practice going? Right? Like because of this metaverse and what's happening, do you like where do you see the evolution of this like kind of heading?
Oh, that's a great question, John. Well, um, uh, I would love to see myself working with larger and larger groups of people, so the more
Mm,
people can access my abilities and what I can do, how I can shift their vibration, increase their vibration, and and when I say that's really part of helping to empower people is by raising their vibration, right?
mm,
The stronger and better you feel, the more motivated you are to go out there and make a difference,
right.
right?
Right.
So I'd like to see myself, filling like stadiums because
Mm,
my energy is so powerful that I know everyone would feel it and be affected in a good way by it. So that's kind of my long-term vision.
I love that. That's a great goal, and I definitely feel that positive energy from you, and that ability in you. So that's really cool. I love that. Over the years, has there been any sort of like quote or adage that that you really resonate with when it comes to your business, that you feel like that's what I think of when whether it's going through hardships or triumphing? It could be an Ellie original. So is there any that have come across you that you've really been inspired by?
I've been inspired by Marianne Williamson, who
Hmm.
teaches the Judeo-Christian Course in Miracles. And I love her quote that a lot of people know by now, about, don't be afraid to shine your light.
Mm.
Uh, Shine your light. That's what you're here to do. And by doing so, you give others permission to share that, to shine their light.
Right.
And it's on my website as my favorite quote. So that the full quote is on there. It's very nice.
I love that. Okay, so definitely take a look at that. But I love that, and I love the thought of that because I think a lot of times, I actually had a conversation about this recently with somebody where they were just, sharing that, they feel almost like not embarrassed, but like, um, vulnerable sharing their successes or things they're excited about. When you shine and you're excited, or you're showcasing the work that you've put in, that you've gotten out from it. It could inspire somebody else, right? Instead of somebody feeling like they're putting somebody down because they're not there yet. And I don't know, that just resonated with me and it made me think about that. So I actually really like that. Um,
Thank you. That's what role models do, right?
mm,
We
mhm.
need to have role models because it gives us all motivation to aspire, to reach our
Mm.
goals when we see those in front of us that have reached their goals and how they've done it.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that, and it's interesting because not everybody shines, their light the same, and not everything motivates everybody the same. So, when you have a team, or you're motivating somebody, or you're leading a team, or inspiring a group of people, everybody has different triggers and things that they like and don't like, and so learning those things I think are so important, especially in leadership. Um, so one thing I would like to ask you, I think this is pretty, this is, so realistically, this comes down to our final question. And this is typically our tough question that we like to ask. It's more of like an exercise. But, you know, a lot of times on this planet, we think like the people who care and think about their legacy, like what they're going to leave behind and what people are going to remember them by, and so on and so forth, is really thought about from where our feet are today and onward, right? It's like, I want to be this person, and who sells out stadiums, right, as an example. And and obviously there's a lot of other examples people can have, but so a lot of times we don't find that people kind of reverse engineer that process where they're thinking about the end in mind first and working their way backwards. And so what I wanted to ask you, Ellie, is, you know, knowing who you want to be and the impact that you have made and want to continue to make in your life, both in professional and personal, if you were to write your gravestone today, if you were going to have one, I don't know if you would be cremated or whatever, but obviously whatever people would see and read when they saw you after your time has come, what would that read?
Oh, probably something like Ellie Pechet. Ellie Pechet helped so many uh, drop their baggage and
Mm,
move fully into their authentic selves and into their true empowerment so that they could do what they came here to do.
mm, that's powerful. I
Yes.
love I love asking that question because it's like at the end of the day, we're all people on this planet doing the best we can and trying to be the best version of ourselves, and so hearing something like that, it's cool because it's very selfless. You're focused on obviously helping people, and that's your mission and that's your superpower. That you've been given and you've created and built up, and so it's so cool to hear that, Ellie. So again, I want to first off thank you, for your work and what you do. But secondly, just for being on this podcast. I think there's been a lot of great information and stuff shared. This is the part where I want to have you kind of, plug where people can find you, your website, social, how they can best contact you, if they're interested in reaching out to you.
Yeah. Well, it's been really nice being your guest. I've enjoyed our time together very much. And the readers can contact me by email at ellie@phoenixrisinghealing.com. The website is phoenixrisinghealing.com. And they can also, I actually give my phone number. Fewer and fewer people give their phone numbers now, but
Right.
it's a little old fashioned. It's warm. It's who I am. And I do a 15 to 20-minute phone consultation.
Okay.
So if anyone who's listening wants to schedule that, my phone number is 508-237-4929.
That's amazing, and I love it. And I don't think that's too old school. I do the same thing. I'm still somebody who, when I when you leave a voicemail, a lot of times it's kind of like, in this day and age, people are like, okay, people don't even like getting voicemails anymore. They want you to text them. So a lot of times when I leave a voicemail, I'll reiterate my phone number as if they don't have it on their cell phone.
Old habits by heart.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, listen, we're very grateful for your time. I believe time is the one asset we don't get back. So you spending it with us here today means the absolute world to me and our listeners. Everybody give Ellie a check, check her out on social media, check out her website. I think there's a lot of great resources that she puts out there. So definitely take advantage of that. Take advantage of her, and I mean that in the best way possible. And Ellie, again, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, John. I was thinking of just maybe giving a special offer for the listeners today, but they'd have to remember to say that they heard me on this, on your podcast.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, for anyone who it resonates to sign up for 4 sessions or 8 sessions, that I would include a 30-minute reading, past life reading, or angel reading, connecting with a loved one who's in spirit. So I just wanted to offer that.
Thank you. That's really kind. And so if we could mention Breaking Barriers, the podcast, when you reach out to Ellie, and so boom, there you go. There you have it. I mean, that's really kind and generous of you. So thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome.